And you should leave it. Yeah, because it was you're empathetic to you're empathetic to oh, man.
Dudley Gregory. Dudley Gregory, how you doing, sir?
Hey, Mayor. I'm like, clean and shiny. How you get that on there, Mayor? We need it so bad. Okay, I like it. Stop. Okay, the December 5th, 2023 Committee on Ways and Means is now called to order. I will call on Councilmember Parker for our invocation. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a moment of silence, please, gentlemen. Amen.
Amen. Do I hear a motion with regard to the minutes of November?
So moved.
28th?
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Bids and purchases.
Move for approval. Second.
The item that we're showing is a sole source contract. Just so that the residents realize what a sole source contract is. It means that the vendor has a unique set of skills, and as a result of that, they're sole sourced. The vendor in question put the system together, so it only makes sense that they take a look and keep it going. Any discussions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. As we move through 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8, I just wanted to sort of couch it for the public. As we go through these budgetary items, I think it's important for the city to know that we got here through a lot of negotiations and discussions. Thanks to Mayor Tecklenburg with regard to having an ad hoc committee that really works. And I must say, it is as a result of Mayor Tecklenburg that we finally have an ad hoc committee that works. And all of our council members over the past year had an opportunity for discussion and for input into the budget. This is the largest budget that the city of Charleston has ever seen. This budget is at what, $331 million? And we got there without a tax increase. So again, I think it's important to call it like we see it. It has been Mayor Tecklenburg who insisted on an ad hoc committee, okay? Now, that's not to say that it wasn't recommended by Councilmember Shade, but I want to also remind Councilmember Shade about 10 years ago, when I first came on council, I recommended that we have an ad hoc committee. And what has happened perhaps as a result of your recommendation and as a result of the mayor pressing forward, we now have a workable ad hoc committee. And all council members had an opportunity to have input. And with that, let's go through this $331 million budget. And let's start with the recommendations of the State Accommodation Tax Advisory Committee. And we did meet on the 4th of December. And we came up with amendments as well as the 2024 proposed tax accommodation tax budget. Do I hear any discussion or a motion with respect to item 4?
I move for approval. Second.
Moved and properly second. Any discussion? Yes, Councilmember Shade.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and appreciate the limited shout out about the Budget Ad Hoc Committee.
I heard you. Clearly.
I have raised this question before last year, and I'm not trying to be a thorn in anybody's side, but I know Ms. Smith is here with some of her folks perhaps, but can we hear from her about what are the plans for the Charleston Wine and Food Festival?
Yes, and I don't have it with me, but I think we allocated 120,000
Yes, that's correct.
for the festival. But if you look throughout the document, most, if not all, of the requests were reduced. The accommodation budget is a little different this year in that we took 15% off of the budget for affordable housing. And as a result of that, all of the numbers have gone down, including the wine and food festival. I don't know if that answered your question, but I was just trying to give you an explanation because across the board, there have been reductions, as you can see.
Yeah, and I noticed that, and I've been in contact with Ms. Warden. She sent me some other documents over, and I've been exchanging emails as well. And I just want to hear, before I make any objections, what are the plans for this coming year? And I have to give them a shout out because they really did do a fine job last year, particularly with the closing of King Street for that one particular event. I thought that was a very nice touch, what they did. But as you may remember, we left one of the signature events left Marianne Square, and I knew there was some questions about that. And I know what the impact is with this festival. It's a benefit to the community, it's a benefit to our citizens. But this is an ongoing theme I've been trying to press upon with this council and with this community. The name, the brand Charleston has been fostered over decades. And we saw it with the Spoleto event, I forgot what year we're in, how many decades we've gone through with this. With the Mojo Festival, with other festivals that are around here, we have a brand of Charleston. And you look at other nonprofits, when they brand some of the things that they do, they may be located outside of the city in either Mount Pleasant or North Charleston, but their logos include a scene of Charleston. One of the signature events, and this is why I want to double check on, one of the signature events that I think they're doing again this year is not going to be in the city, it's going to be in the city of North Charleston. And there may be reasons for that. But if we're paying money as part of this funds are going to help subsidize what we normally would not charge, that another municipality is charging them, and so we're subsidizing another municipality with public funds. I want some answers to that particular question, because these are our stewardship responsibilities towards the tax dollars that go to these events. So I just want a little more clarity as to what's going on with what they have proposed. I noticed that there's been a reduction across the board. I've looked at the different figures, studied them, and it's also significantly less than what they've requested as well. So perhaps if we can get some response to that, I'd appreciate it.
So your question is why did Marianne Square or why subsidizing that not only
I've asked for the full budget from this, for their event, whether or not the money that we're giving to them, this I think $20,000 is being used to subsidize an expense that another municipality is charging them that we normally don't charge.
Their application, sorry, the application is for advertising, so it would be for the total event. That's what we would be funding with the ATAX dollars. So it's for the whole event. I don't think you can separate it by location because they're advertising the Food and Wine Festival. That makes sense. All of it's for.
I didn't quite hear all of your answer. I'm sorry.
The
So what
120,
Yeah, what they applied for to use the funds is for advertising. So it'd be advertising the whole Food and Wine Festival.
Okay,
Does that answer your question?
thank you.
not for the facility. Okay, any more questions? If not, Councilmember Seekings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. So I appreciated your sort of explanatory comments before we began this budgeting process. I just want to point out a couple of things, if you don't mind, and then I have a specific point I want to make. When it comes to this item, item number 4, this does not come through the budget ad hoc process. This is something actually that we on City Council, who don't sit on the State ATAX Committee, have seen for the first time in just the last couple of days. So it's a little bit of a different process. And I would like to say this. I think that the way we distribute state accommodations tax monies should be adjunct to the ad hoc budget committee process. Now, I know we don't get the budget as quickly and at a time, but it should be something that we take into consideration because there are a number of items in this list that are entities and events that the city is part and parcel of. And I'll perfect example, I've sat on the board now for 12 or 13 years at the Gibbs. We co-own the building with the Gibbs. There's lots of shared expenses, and the ATAX dollars are one of many ways that we can defray some of the costs and some of the pressures on a not-for-profit arts organization to raise funds to continue to operate, right? And so if they don't come through the state ATAX process, they're going to come from somewhere else. And I just think that if we should slot this process with the bigger budgeting process so that they all fit together. I get the fact that the 2024 numbers are less than the 2023 and 22 numbers. That's just a fact of life. And so monies are going to be distributed a little bit differently. And you mentioned it, but this is the first year we have been able to take some of those monies and put it aside for affordable housing, which is the right thing to do. I fully support that. And I think we should always max that out. Again, it's adjunct to our bigger goal is to fund all the needs of the things that the city are involved in, including affordable housing, including the arts role. So, you know, I just think that we should have a more robust conversation about this coming in than do it on the floor and go through line item by line item. That's why somebody was cut 25 or 50 off the process. I just don't think that's productive. I would like to see, as a member of the board of the Gibbs and as someone who on this council is going to have to figure out a way to fund some of the maintenance costs at the Gibbs that are going to only increase over the course of time because their square footage space is likely to increase significantly sometime in the next couple of years, that we're going to have to sort of package that all together. And this is one of the many ways that we can get to a place that puts less stress on them economically. So I don't know if there was a reason why there was a specific amount cut from the Gibbs as opposed to others. I did see that some got cut more than others. We weren't there for that meeting, and I don't want to go line item by line item, but as a member of the board of the Gibbs and a member of this council, I do think it's incumbent on me to point out that this is a process that we should really put with the budgeting process, not aside from the budgeting process.
I agree. And I don't think that we should just restrict it to ATAX. We should also look at it in terms of the hospitality dollars. And there are a couple of others that I think should be fleshed out in the ad hoc process. And I think that that is something that we can do for 25. Should do for
Absolutely.
25. Mayor Tecklenburg?
that the vast majority of the dollars of this accommodations tax fund budget is pretty well prescribed by state law and by, former commitments that this council has made to debt service for the African American Museum, for the Gibbs, for the aquarium, and other pre-existing commitments. And then secondly, I believe the structure of the ATAX committee is actually prescribed by state law as well. And maybe Mr. the Chairman of our Ways and Means also as chair of that committee. I don't know that all the council members were invited to come to your meeting, but it certainly would be fine to do that, whether they choose to come or not. So the kind of discretionary part of this is what, 25% of the budget. So, and then you take away the 15% that we were able to get for affordable housing, and it just put a squeeze on everybody's numbers this year. We certainly try when we're thinking about the recommendations to fit it in with other city needs and requirements, such as, the City of Charleston Cultural Festivals Fund for Moja and Piccolo and all like that. So I don't know how much further you could really make a difference by bringing it up at the ad hoc meeting, but that's something that future mayor and council can certainly do if they want to.
It might have to change the application process too.
So it is governed by the state. What we bring to council for approval has to be what that committee recommends. So if we do that, we need to figure out the process, because what we bring here has to be what the committee recommended.
By statute.
Yeah.
If I could just follow, I totally get that. And
Yeah.
I'm just thinking sort of going forward, having some input before that committee meets from the ad hoc committee can only be a benefit, not a detriment. And you might remember before Councilmember Gregory was the chairman of the ATAX committee, I was. So I do know something about the process and I get it. I just want to make sure that we give it every opportunity to succeed and get the dollars in a place that make the most sense and we get the most bang for the buck, given that I know we are regulated by the state and how we spend these monies. You might recall we had a representative of the state come and speak to us one year about how these monies are allocated, because there was some difference of opinion, so we say, about how it was distributed. And I'm not here to blow that up. I'm here to make it smoother so that those who go through the process know that we've given it some input coming in. And when it gets to that committee, there's some input from a council group of representatives that doesn't just do it right here on the floor, the first meeting in December.
But I would just take issue at one point. This does make sense.
Okay.
Okay?
I
mean, you said it, I didn't. He said it didn't make something.
I did
that
not
makes
say it
sense.
didn't make sense.
Something that makes sense. And I'm just saying, this makes sense.
Just to add to, remember the revenues were less this year too. So that also had some impact on what we distributed.
Thanks. Any other questions? Yes, Councilmember.
Could you
Where?
repeat what you just said? I didn't get it all.
The revenues were less this year
Yeah.
than in prior years,
Right.
so that had an impact as well.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for recognizing me. I agree with everything that's been said. I do agree somehow in the process, I think council needs to have a little bit more information. It's not that it's being held, but the process doesn't allow for, our ad hoc process is pretty involved. But this portion somehow falls to the floor. And I think we can somehow going forward, not tonight, but going forward, have a little bit more input on the process. The budget ad hoc process has been, I think, a godsend. It brings us all up to speed. And I think this may be the exception, somewhat of an exception. That said, we do have ally organizations, like the Gibbs. What is the partnership between the Gibbs and the city? Is it 50-50 on the building?
On the building, 50-50.
Right. And I remember, Mr. Mayor, in your office, we had a meeting with folk from BMOC and obviously the Gibbs, and the building, the SC&G building, Dominion building. That's gonna be a challenge, obviously, for the Gibbs, which means to me, I think is a challenge for the city. I'm talking about going forward. I remember discussion about potential revenues from renting of the Gibbs potentially being reduced by what may come next door. Hopefully that's not the reality, but if it is the reality, that's part of, I think, our responsibility to help strengthen, if you will, the Gibbs. The Gibbs is an organization, it's how old, Mike? You've been on there 12 years, so I know it's 12. So about 100 years old, Ms. Brown? How old is the Gibbs? So only 120 years old. And I remember, and you may remember this, Councilman Shade, when we heard about the size of the endowment for an organization that's in excess of a century years old, we just need to do better. So when it comes to dinging the finances on a group like that, we just got to find a way to squeeze the orange a little bit better. That's all I'm saying.
We do have an agreement with the Gibbs for the maintenance, so if that's something we need to look at, we can look at that. And that comes from hospitality funds.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Shea?
Oh, don't look that way at me, come
Uh,
on. I just want to ask a question that something that Councilmember Seeking said, and maybe the mayor can chime in on this. Because some of these organizations, we do have a level of either partnership or association with, whatever, how you want to describe it. And we do have seats on these boards. And are we fully represented on most of these organizations? Yeah, I mean, the city representation, you know, something like the Charleston Museum has a seat or two. The South Carolina Aquarium has, I think, a seat or two that is allowed for us. If not, those should just need to be fulfilled. I think they are. There's
To
more
the
of a,
extent we have assigned board memberships, I believe they're all filled right now. There's some that don't have a signed city board seats.
Any further questions? If not, are we ready for the question?
Ready for the question.
The question is,
All in favor?
Aye.
item number 4,
Yes, item number 4.
both
Yes.
A and B.
Yes,
Okay.
the amended as well as the 24. Right.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Let's move on to.
There's one name for the record, Councilmember Parker.
This is on 4, right? A and B, council
Right.
member. Okay, all right. Item 5, hospitality fee budget. Moved and properly
Second.
seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Nay.
Nay, 1 nay. Okay. The next is the proposed stormwater utility fund. Moved and properly second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 7,
Approval.
moved and properly second. Any discussion on item 7, the municipal accommodations fee ordinance? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item 8,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 9,
Move for approval.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item 10, the budget, finance, and revenue collections. Okay, this is the $275 million bond for CW. Is CW here? Would like to,
House.
you want to just keep going and get this out of the way, or do you want to come in? Yes, all in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. Item 11, yes, Mayor Technobrat? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I would like to ask if council would allow representatives of Charleston Water Service just to give us a very brief overview of the capital projects that they are looking to accomplish for the future of their system to supply clean water and sewage for our city and our surrounding area. This is a big number. I think this is the largest bond-related approval the city has ever had at one time, to be honest with you. And I think it's reasonable to ask them to report on what they're getting ready to do with all
Some
this
of it's
funding.
Plum Island and
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Russell Huggins. I'm the Capital Projects Officer for Charleston Water System. We did distribute out to each member of City Council a copy of our proposed our board approved 2024 through 2027 capital improvements program. I hope you each had opportunity to see it. I know it was just distributed last week. It was just approved last week at our board meeting. So to the mayor's point, this is indeed our largest capital improvements program. A lot of that is a function of the economy. I don't think that's any surprise to anybody in this room. The cost of construction has really gone up significantly. And then we're also trying to respond to growth within our service area. The secret's been out on Charleston for a long time, and we have to expand services to be able to meet that growth and demand. So we do have a total of over $281 million in the 2024 through 2027 capital improvement plan. That breakdown is about $151 million for water. And within the water, that includes expansion of the Hanahan Water Treatment Plant to meet projected peak day demands. We also got funding in there to extend a new transmission main that will serve Peninsula Charleston. Right now, we rely on a pair of 1920s transmission mains, to serve the peninsula. This new water main will certainly support those aging water main and also provide capacity for additional growth and fire protection on the peninsula. So that's a very important project for us. We got about $123 million allocated for wastewater improvements. Some of that is for improvements at the Plum Island Wastewater Treatment Plant. But more importantly for us, we got significant funding in there for extension of the West Ashley Sewer Tunnel. So that'll allow us to serve the build out capacity of sewer in the West Ashley area as well as the Johns Island area. So that's a very important project for us. I'll also mention that we did get SCIP funding to offset a portion of the cost of that tunnel. So we got $10 million of funding through that program that we'll be able to utilize for the extension of the tunnel. And then we also got $7 million in the capital improvement program to do some needed improvements at our St. Philip Street location on Peninsula Charleston. We always call that our new building. It's now almost 40 years old. So it's time to renovate that building. And it's important to us that we have a presence on the peninsula and that we're also able to serve our customers on the peninsula. So by renovating that building, that's going to allow us to continue to do that. And then we also got some funding allocated to do some fuel island and system improvements for us at our operations facility over in North Charleston. So those systems out there have reached end of life. So that kind of summarizes the major improvements we got in the project. If you got any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Councilmember Waring.
Could you please touch on the significance of the West Ashley project on the bikeway, the tunnel the pipes are being replaced, the significance of that to the city of Charleston and West Ashley in its entirety?
Yeah, what's out there right now is parallel ductile iron and cast iron force mains that have reached or began to reach the end of their useful life. So the risk there is at some point they will fail. It's just the corrosive nature of cast iron, ductile iron, sewer mains, and then the corrosiveness of the sewer lines. So we have both capacity challenges out there. We're going to have to build additional capacity. And at the same time, we got the risk associated with those existing force mains, some of which are located in environmentally sensitive areas. We certainly know the wetlands and marsh areas and lowland areas that parallel the Krogan Greenway out there. So extending this tunnel out there will provide us the capacity for build out, and it'll also eliminate the need to replace these existing force mains that are out there. And along with that, we also have a regional pump station at where what will be the terminus of the new tunnel. that we'll be able to eliminate that pump station altogether. And what you may not realize, all the wastewater for Johns Island comes across the river and discharges into the pump station that I just mentioned to you that we will be taking offline. So now all that wastewater will bypass that pump station, will no longer go through those force mains, but it'll discharge directly into that new sewer tunnel. So that's extremely important for us.
So in other words, it comes from Johns Island to the West Ashley Bikeway, comes underneath that and goes straight to Plum Island,
Go straight to Krogan, right to the,
Krogan branch.
right, to Albemarle Road. And then it goes over and discharges into the Plum Island wastewater treatment plant.
And
It also provides capacity for our wholesale customers, Hollywood, Ravenel, and Megan as well, discharged into that new.
the cost of that one project, I'm talking about the West Ashley Tunnel, is approximately,
$100 million. I hate to say it, but it seems like everything nowadays is approximately $100 million. But that's the reality of the construction market that we are facing right now.
thank you, Mr. Huggins.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you hitting the pause button, because this really is such an important aspect of what we do in city government. And I appreciate my time. I've been on the Public Works and Utilities to have a better understanding of what Charleston Water does. And most folks don't understand the separation between the city of Charleston and Charleston Water System. But we work so well together. And I'll just give one example of that. And we've talked about West Ashley and James Island, what Councilman Warren just brought up. But early on in my tenure on city council was an area off of Charlestown Estates neighborhood in which the rainwater, stormwater was so powerful, it overwhelmed the system in Charlestown Estates 1 and 2. And sewer water bubbled up in those neighborhoods and came into people's homes. As a result of that, and if you drive by Old Town Road by Charlestown Landing, you'll see the new station they have implemented. They tore down the station over by West Pawnee neighborhood. That's gone. But the impact of doing that, and that is a direct result of the level of coordination and cooperation and collaboration between our stormwater department and Charleston Water. And I just, that provides such a tremendous impact for the citizens of District 9, in particular those two neighborhoods. So thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of them, thank you for that level of work. It's such critically important, and we just can't let that just pass on as we go through this process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Go this way if you can. Well, first, CWS, I mean, thank you so much this year. I know a lot of y'all have Mr. Klein. Thank you for all that you've done on James Island with a lot of the sewer abandonment projects. I mean, this has been really huge for James Island. You know, at no cost to these homeowners in multiple communities, as you know, some are part of the James Island Task Force, but either way, thank you. All of those efforts are wonderful for our citizens, so thank you. I do have a question about your budget and ongoing efforts for odor abatement. I just wasn't sure what, I kind of know what's ongoing, but for future projects, I know we're taking it all in from a lot of other places, so to speak, and just, you know, what that means for James Island. Obviously, that's always a big concern, so I'm just wondering what y'all have planned for the future hopes.
I will say that, you know, we master plan all the operational areas at Charleston Water System. Those operational areas being water treatment, water distribution, wastewater collection, and then wastewater treatment. And part of the master plan for Plum Island does include odor control. We're certainly sensitive to that. You know, we understand the concerns of the city. We don't appreciate the odor, you know, we have to work out there. I will say that that Plum Island for many years, for many different reasons, didn't get the attention it probably deserved. But over the last 20 years, we've been very purposeful in doing improvements at Plum Island. If you live in James Island, I'm sure you've seen all the cranes out there and all the work that's been going on. We're in what we call right now our phase 4 of capital improvements at Plum Island. Once this is completed, we will almost effectively have rebuilt Plum Island. And by doing that, you know, we've upgraded the processes out there. And just by doing so, naturally improve the way we treat the wastewater and will improve odor control. And then we have more specific plans in place that we can implement as well that are more specific to odors. But things like our headworks where we screen the wastewater that comes in, it used to be that was a wide open, that just is what it was. And, but now that's a covered facility. And that covered facility is screened. I mean, you know, is vented and there's odor control in that facility. New solids handling building, we're going out there. When we take the residuals that we remove from the wastewater, that was an open facility. The new facility that's under construction right now under phase 4 will be an enclosed facility. Truck loading, when we have to haul debris, I'll call it debris, we have to haul the residuals off. Right now they have to sit out there. Sometimes they have to sit out there for a long time. And so now we're going to have new storage silos. So rather than sitting in open trucks, they'll be in storage silos. And again, those storage silos, that air is captured and that air is treated. So there's a lot of different things out there as we move through, systematically move through these improvements at Plum Island.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, a couple things. First, a comment. As you all know, we're about to close out, I mean, literally about to close out phase 3 of the low battery seawall project and go into phase 4. Phase 3 was the most complicated and longest part of it. And we did it in conjunction with and in partnership with Charleston Water System. And they, I think of the $21 million budget for phase 3, and Mr. Fountain will correct me if I'm wrong, about 10% of that was paid by Charleston Water System because of reconfiguring and replacing utilities. So been a great partnership. Thank you all. And that project has really been a stellar project. I have a quick question. You mentioned in the list of projects that you were moving forward with, I heard you mention renovations to your downtown facility on St. Philip Street. Can I take it to mean that you are planning to stay there for some period of time in the future, that there's no plan on y'all moving?
That's the staff's plan. We're always, you know, ultimately that's a board decision. You know, we feel like location. And our location on St. Philip Street, close to the heart of the city of Charleston, is important to us.
That's helpful. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do. Item 10, we already voted on it. Item 11. Do I hear a motion on item 11? Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Item 12. The License Committee did meet on Monday, December 4th. And we did have a discussion with regard to updating and our licenses, I'm sorry, our business license class schedule. And we have to do that every couple of years because the state changes the rates. And as a result, we need to be consistent with that. We voted for it, of course, and it was unanimous. And now we're here to see what you guys want to do with it. Item 12.
Move for approval.
Moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Appel.
What was the latest on the schedule increase for hotels that we've been talking about? What did we end up?
I can't remember
Deciding.
exactly, but that did come up in our discussion.
Good job.
And most of the rate changes were so minuscule that it does not change our $48 million licenses contribution to the $331 million budget.
We are contracted with Unicap. They're doing an analysis of all of that right now. So I would say first quarter, we'll have that done. Then we can move forward with that.
Got it. And as y'all will recall, we're increasing the rates for accommodations uses. The goal is to bring us more in line with Myrtle Beach.
Yes.
And the goal here is to have the tourism industry help better offset public services, general fund, things of that nature. Still a long way to go, but this is an important low-hanging fruit step, if I may be so bold.
Yes. Mayor
So-
Tecklenburg.
Thank you. So could I ask Amy, if possible, to get MuniCap to finish up what they need to do with their due diligence, would it be possible to get the rate change in place before the renewal in April? I think is when the annual renewal occurs. That would be nice.
We can look into that. Yes. I'm not sure with the ordinance and having it all approved and all of that, if there would be time, but we'll look into that.
It could be our goal to
Right.
try to get it in place before this
Right.
next renewal period comes up. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions or discussions? Are we ready to vote on this? We had a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Is there anything else to come before this committee? If not, meeting's adjourned.